Welcome to the beautiful game. As always, I am Blake here with Ferris.
Hola.
And the newly crowned Sausage King, back from Oktoberfest, Rump.
Sausage King. What's happening?
No,
but why did I get crowned the Sausage King?
Because on our last episode, we're just Blake and I it's not the Sausage King, it's the Sultan of Sausage.
Oh, Sultan of Sausage. Thank you.
Yes. And you have some new nicknames coming your way today. Don't you worry.
That's right. That's right. As we begrudgingly drank our Oktoberfest beers, like I bet Ron's having fresh ones right now.
Oh, boy, was I.
So for today's episode, we're going to be looking ahead to the weekend for some top 6 derby matches, as well as discussing Mr. Graham Potter, Mr. Potter, upcoming league debut for his new blue club. Before then, before we switch gears to the Sultan of Sausage, the gent of Germany, and the lad of Lederhosen, the Reinhardt Ron gives us a recap.
I love
European travels to Switzerland and celebrating the opening of Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany, before ending the pod with a little international footy. But first, it's time for beer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, my beer comes from a little place, and when I say a little place, I mean a very small place, a nano brewery in the Schilthorn Pills of Switzerland.
Oh.
Yeah. Brought all the way back in honor of one Mr. Michael Ferris.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Blake and I kind of conspired a little bit about this beer.
George Lazenby IPA?
Well, you're not far off.
Oh, God. On Her Majesty's Blonde Ale or something?
Not Stirred New England IPA.
Oh, my dear heavens.
It is a beer made by a nano brewery specifically for the Schilthorn. The Schilthorn is the place where they filmed Blofeld's lair in the movie On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
This can is Blake. Do you have a can? Did I see a can? You have it. We all have the same beer.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Have a little meeting in Asheville before he made his way back to Florida,
so that I could make sure that he had this spectacular beer.
This is brilliant.
So real quick, a very fast history lesson. This location in Switzerland, right on essentially the top of Lauterbrunnen in Switzerland, is a town called Mürren. And then next to that, up 2 mountain peaks, is where they filmed Blofeld's lair for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Yep, there it is. There's the logo. So essentially what ended up happening was that they needed a really remote, cool place to film, and the location scouts found this basically half-constructed ski resort at the top of this mountain. And the film company wanted to use it, but the government couldn't get it complete on time. So the movie ended up buying the whole thing and completing it before turning it back over to government. And then they had essentially the free reign of it for about 8 or 9 months. No one else was allowed up there. So they film the movie there. It becomes a very big, popular, destination.
Yeah.
After the movie becomes popular, they make a floor out of that's called the Bond Experience, and it is something to experience. If you are ever in the area, you have to go, because it is a very it's a fun look at all the movie, of how they filmed the whole movie. There's stuntmen who put their prints, like their handprints in rocks, and there's all these like big plaques on the inside and the outside that tell you how they filmed the movie, when they did the explosion scenes, how many helicopter loads it took, all this really cool kind of insider stuff.
And of course, I mean, if you haven't listened and you're fairly new, Ferris is an enormous James Bond fan.
Yes. And ironically, this is the one Bond that I haven't seen.
So here's the deal. No.
Okay, here we go.
You don't get that beer if you don't promise that you are finally going to watch that friggin' movie, because it is actually really good. And a lot of the cool things that happen later with Bond get their start there. You got to do it, Ferris.
Yes. Okay. I will do that.
Yes,
I will do that because you brought the beer back. You were there. Yes, I will watch it at some point. Yes.
Can we do a live stream and like only we hear the audio of the movie, but we can all like just watch? Yeah.
Oh yeah. If it's on Netflix, we can do the watch party.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on something on Amazon or Netflix. I don't know where the rates of them are.
Say that again, Blake.
Amazon bought Bond. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon.
Yeah. So flash forward, it becomes this massive tourist thing. And this little tiny nano brewery called Brewery Thurnhere, they make this beer exclusively for sale at that specific restaurant and gift shop. That's the only place you can buy it. You can't buy it in the town. You can't go to Lauterbrunnen. You can't go to Geneva.
Kidding.
You can only buy it at the Schilthorn. And on the can, you can
New
see
England IPA. Yep.
that there's the Schilthorn label in pink on it. It's yeah.
It's a shame we didn't have martini glasses for this.
I know. I was trying to get a hold of some, but it didn't work out.
Oh, how funny! That's awesome.
It's a New England IPA, hazy IPA, 6.5 on the old ABV and 32 on the IBUs.
And it's one of the European cans. It's like a 0.03% smaller. I tried to use the like koozie you got me. I can't. You can't drink out of it because it goes just below the lip. Yeah. So instead, it's okay. We all know Arsenal is the Bond club. So there you go.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's totally accurate.
The Bond villain manager.
Yeah, come on.
Just to let you know how hard this beer is to actually get a hold of, there are only 12 ratings on Untapped.
Oh, we're about to be number 13, baby.
Lucky number 13.
Yeah. So this is quite arguably a difficult beer to get a hold of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they make such small amounts of it.
Get good pictures. This is Bad Boys going on Untapped tonight.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, come on, Lazenby's hair. That is some Arteta.
Hey, I tell you what, he does look like Bond in the suit, yes. But oh man, I don't know. But I will have to see it.
Yeah, it's you're gonna go.
I've held off long
you
enough.
Gotta see it. It's not a terrible one. It's actually pretty good.
Oh man!
And besides, you got even though she's a bit older now, Diana Rigg was in it, and then for her day, she was quite the looker in Hollywood and was hired because Bond
girls,
and she was an exceptional one. So a really quick funny thing before we crack this open, in the bathrooms of the Bond experience, there are like TVs behind the mirror, and you can't tell that they're there until you go to wash your hands, right? And then the TV kicks on and plays this little clip, and one of the clips is Diana Rigg comes on, and she goes, "What's wrong, Bond?" What'd she say? Oh, why is everything so small, Bond? Cold? And then turns off.
That's brilliant. I love on the side of the can, it's a cool and dunkel. I don't know how to say that, but then it goes brewed, not shaken, not stirred.
That's also my favorite thing that you sent from the bathroom was in the bathroom. Don't shake. Was it shake it, don't stir?
Yeah.
That's
Aim like James was on there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
For when we put this pod up, I will put some pictures of the bathroom up so that.
Yeah. On the for the blog page, totally. Gotta throw the.
Yeah, it was cool. Let's crack this one.
Thanks, man.
Crack it, man. All the way out in Switzerland.
That was so fun. Ooh.
I like you went to Switzerland, and they are also on the New England IPA kick.
I was about to say, yeah, like
not the beer. If you'd have told me,
not the beer, I would have
guess what style it's going to be after telling me the history of it, I would not have guessed the New England IPA.
Pour's great though.
Yeah, they don't. To be honest, Switzerland and Germany are deeply rooted in their traditions. There's not all the IPAs and stuff were all foreign.
Yeah,
and imported. And to be honest, I didn't have a single IPA while I was there.
Goodness me, this smells good. How does it look on your end? I couldn't pour. I still have a desk with a 1 square inch opening on it because all this crap is piled on it as I'm building my other desk.
It is hazy as all get out.
Super juicy.
Yeah, super juicy. You definitely can't see through it at all.
It's got a nice, Ferris and I poured kind of guerrilla style, and there's probably about a 1/4 inch of head on it. With pretty nice lacing.
Yeah, it's staying there, which is good.
Piney on the nose.
Get a lot of that New England style smell to it with that little bit of piney, little bit of citrusy in there.
Yeah.
And that mix of all of that with hops.
All right, shall we give it a whirl?
Yes.
Not stirred, gentlemen.
Shaken, not stirred. Cheers.
Wow, interesting.
That's friggin' delicious.
That's way smoother than I expected it was going to be.
Got a sweetness on the back.
I was waiting for a kick, right?
Yeah.
Like I was waiting for like a hop boom at the end or a really just stern taste. And that's not at all what this was.
It finishes out so smooth. This one's dangerous.
My problem with this is you don't have more.
Yeah.
This is great. 6.5% alcohol too. Yeah, you'd sit by the pool and be in serious trouble very quickly with this. God, this is fantastic.
That is quite good.
Remember, take your notes because we gotta untap this bad boy.
Yeah.
We got number 13.
Yep.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Oh, so good.
So good.
Makes me want to watch a Bond right now.
Well, I know which one you need to watch.
You should watch this one. And
It's
there's...
Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Ferris gave us that I'll watch it at some point.
Then I will watch it. I promise you I will watch it.
I think I'm going to watch it in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Not
okay.
Here's the
7
thing.
months.
It's the historical side of it, but also they take swings that they got in trouble for at the time, but that later would pay. They are things that happened that they did do in Casino Royale that people liked about it, And one of the swings they took was some of the comedy stuff, and you'll see you'll see moments and go, oh, that's where Austin Powers came from. This scene right here,
exactly.
There's a lot of cinema history stuff in there that you'll be like, I'm glad I watched this. It's definitely fun, and you got to feel a little bad for George, poor guy. I mean, with no tradition of switching Bonds, and he's the first one. Oof, that's rough.
He they switched him real quick. So it was Connery for 2, and then he went in, and then Connery came back, or maybe Connery for 3. I don't remember exactly.
By the way, Ron, you said this thing was Piney on the nose. I said that's our Bond girl name.
Oh, that's funny.
The nose, Piney on the nose. All right, here we go. So. Before we turn the mic back over to Ron, because
true,
that's the topic that'll be coming of Chelsea's new manager, Mr. Potter. First, we're going to look ahead to the weekend for some top 6 derby matches. First to kick off for our weekend return to the Premier League, we have the North London Derby as first in the table. Arsenal will be hosting third in the table London rivals Tottenham in a lunchtime affair. Splitting the series last season and splitting their last 29 matches with 11 wins apiece and 7 draws. That's pretty split at moments, isn't it? Arsenal will be happy to have the first upper hand as they play this one at the Emirates. With overall team stats pretty similar so far in this young season, can the top of the table Gunners blast a loss in the undefeated record for their London foes? I mean, this is a tough one because right now, kind of with both teams, it's a real coin toss, I feel like.
Yeah, I think, part of the reason why I put in there that it's being played at the Emirates, I do think that does help. Interesting stat, actually, that I didn't include in here, though, is that so far this season, Arsenal rank first away from home this season, and Tottenham rank first at home this season. So in both of their ranks, neither are playing where they're ranked first at, but it should be an interesting affair. I think coming back from international break will make it interesting as well. Not both clubs, just one club in Tottenham played last go around, and Arsenal game got Arsenal played. Actually, both clubs played. Yeah. Both clubs played. After the postponement, there was a handful of matches that did get postponed, but Arsenal beat Brentford and Tottenham beat Leicester, as we discussed on the last pause. Yeah. So it should be a very, very interesting one. It's going to start everything off. It's going to be that early lunchtime for the UK time and early morning game here.
Xhaka red card?
What's that?
29th minute Xhaka red card?
I don't think so.
Xhaka's been much more measured this year than I think we've all thought.
That's actually not against Xhaka. It's more against this derby. Frequently, when the matches have started in a way that you're like, ooh, this one's going to be awesome, a red card appears within the first half, and you're like, and it just throws the whole thing off. I
think an interesting matchup here to watch is going to be Kane against Saliba, right? You got two really big lads. Kane, a bit pacey for a big guy, not overly, not like your Rashford or your Antony's like United, but Kane's a little bit more physical. With that being said, he's not overly physical, but definitely a handful to deal with. And I'm going to really look early in the game to see who he's shadowing more, right? Does Kane play off the shoulder of a Saliba, or does Kane play off the shoulder of a Gabriel, who's going to be a little bit more feisty with him, right? You saw that against United and Arsenal, where it was that Varane and Jesus kind of battle where they were just fighting nonstop. Not so much that the Martinez and Jesus battle. So for here, I'm wondering if Kane picks on Saliba a bit and kind of puts, kind of as his shadow for the day to see if he can get in behind and kind of turn, not a new person to the club, but a new to the Premier League, only 7 games in.
That could be your red card right there. Old, gotta give everything to Harry Kane from the referees. There's your.
If Saliba gets a red card, do you still sing the song?
Oh yeah, I think
have to.
I mean,
especially if it knocks Kane on his butt. No, for sure. I mean, it's they're both kind of riding high. I would be curious to know what the betting is on this.
I will bring that up.
It can't be far off.
Early odds. No, it's going to probably be a slight favorite to Arsenal, I would guess.
Arsenal.
But while I'm looking that up, Blake, who do you think is going to start at right back where your Son will possibly be at? Is that going to be Tomiyasu, or is that going to be Ben White, who's played there most of the season?
I mean, Tomiyasu was quite good playing for Japan just now, thrashing the United States. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. I don't think he'll switch up Tomiyasu on this one. I maybe would think differently if that UEFA match hadn't been postponed and Tomiyasu had played maybe in that and played well. And I know he played well in Japan, but as far as playing at Arsenal, and I don't know if you saw the report where he was like, it's you have to fight for your spot, and I'm ready to fight for my spot here on the club since Ben White was getting the start. I bet Ben White gets the start. Now, don't be shocked if you don't see Tomiyasu come off the bench.
100%.
Fairly early, in the second half. But I think Ben White, he's your starter.
Yeah, I think you're probably right to keep a consistent back four, especially with Gabriel, Saliba, and Zinchenko, who we'll see how he does, because Zinchenko was a little caught out at times with Anthony playing on that right-hand side against Man United. Not necessarily caught out, but just a little bit of that pace had to pushed him back a bit. Will Kulusevski do that? Kulusevski's not quite as fast as Anthony, so we'll see. But Blake, to your question earlier, the odds right now, Arsenal are favorites as you would think. They're at minus 105, and Tottenham are at plus 270. So actually a pretty decent line there, and those odds are courtesy of FanDuel.com. And then, do you know who who has the best odds for first goal scorer in this currently would be?
Who is that?
Is it an Arsenal player?
It is.
Saka.
No, he's about fifth down the line.
Oh.
Jesus.
Jesus is tipped
at plus 440, and then you have Kane slightly behind at plus 500, tied with Son on plus 500. Nketiah, fourth best odds for first goal scorer. Is he expected to get the stars or something here that I'm missing, Blake? Over a Martinelli or a Saka?
Well, it might. I don't know. If your odds of the scoring, you're probably going to lean toward the forwards, right? So,
but if he's coming off the bench as first goal scorer, you expect are those interesting odds for do you expect him to come in and get the first goal? Maybe sometime in the second half, coming off the bench. I guess is kind of the thought on that.
Is it to make money if you're willing to risk?
Sorry, I totally just cut you off. Say that again, Blake.
It sounds like a bet to make money on if you're willing to take the risk. But yeah. Kind of odd.
And that's first goal scorer. That's not like anytime goal scorer. So those odds are going to be
right
a bit different. But
I don't know. That's tough that there's not going to be a goal in the first half with the attacking power of both of those squads.
Well, and I do want to say I think I don't know that Zinchenko is going to start because he has not. He's had an injury he's coming off of.
So who starts in that place for you? Then?
Well, the Vieira got his first goal last week. No, sorry, that was for Odegaard. But for Zinchenko,
is that Tierney?
That was Tierney, I believe. Was Tierney in the squad last week?
Yeah, wasn't he in the squad?
Yes, and Partey got sent home.
Yes.
From international duty because he got a head injury. So he's an unknown as well.
Yeah, that guy always gets hurt, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, he got a possible. Well, they had to do a concussion protocol with him in the national break. Now he could be fine. They kind of thought he was fine, so he may be starting just fine. And in fact, he didn't stay there. Arsenal had him come on back immediately. But Odegaard has been a past fit, but has completed 71 minutes for Norway. So,
he'll play tomorrow for Norway, I think, too.
Yeah, coming out of international duty, there is some question, I guess, about what the lineup could be. It's a little hard to guess entirely.
I don't know on this one. That it's gonna. Something screams draw here for me.
Yeah, when they're both riding high, a lot of times that's exactly what it's frustratingly come down to is a draw.
Yeah, and you that Emirates advantage could be there. I both are kind of similar in a way. How a really pacey, fun front three, a decent midfield, right? You got your Xhaka, your Højbjergs, then a back line that is decent, but with your Emerson Royales, your Ben White, they're about the same. In goal, Ramsdale and Lloris, again, about the same. So, it's kind of a cop-out to say I think it could be a draw. So to answer the question, no, I don't think Arsenal will kind of break that undefeated run of Tottenham because of the draw. So I don't think Arsenal necessarily going to lose, but I think the draw is a higher possibility in my eyes anyways.
Right.
I think I'm putting my eggs in the Arsenal basket on this one. As if Jesus is having a good, if he can find space and run off some of those diagonal runs and they can come off on the front foot, I think Arsenal has slightly better chance of doing this than Tottenham does. Only, yes, they're unbeaten. Yes, Tottenham is unbeaten, but by and large, they have been slow on the attack. They haven't been as creative, and they've just been kind of hammering the goals they get. Whereas I think Arsenal is a bit more clinical and a bit more creative. So that's why I kind of just lean slightly over to Arsenal.
Yeah, and if you look at the trend of what last season was, where they did split, Arsenal won 3-1 at home about this time. It was, that was September 26th, so this exact day last year. Yeah. Be a little bit later by the time this game is played. And then in May, that very last one was played at Tottenham, where Tottenham won 3-0. So that home advantage, to your point, could play a big role here.
It'll be fun. It'll be a fun one to watch regardless.
Yeah, they both feel like very different clubs from last year, though. At this point,
oh yeah,
I think that's why I'm in the coin flip category right now about what happens. I think any Arsenal fan, of course, wants to win this, but would be like secretly jumping for joy at a draw too, because like we're sitting at a spot. We just need to keep collecting points.
Yep.
Don't get lost in the derby. Now, Mr. Potter.
It might be a short convo.
Oh, I apologize. But I was me looking at the way it broke up over the page on the Google Doc. Sorry. Before we get to Mr. Potter and the curse of the, I don't know if I've come up with a Potter name for a Chelsea.
Curse of the Seagulls.
Curse of the Seagulls. First up, though, we're going to talk about Sunday kicks off with the Manchester derby. Second place, Man City versus fifth place, Man United. But the two clubs further apart than in recent years, with a combined scoreline of 6-1 in their last in their two matches last season, and Manchester City winning 40%, 7% of the time, compared to 41% of the time in their last 32 matches played. Do you see any other result than all 3 points for Pep, Haaland, and City against Manchester United at the Etihad on Sunday? Here's the thing. Manchester United's playing better. They'll get up 2-0, and then in the last 20 minutes, Haaland will get a hat trick. I mean, and I'm not even trying to be an a-hole. That guy is he's a machine right now.
You're not wrong.
Healthy. I would say the same thing if Arsenal were playing them. I'm not playing favorites here. That guy, just when you thought hey, man, maybe there'll be another competitive year. I think, even though I realize Arsenal's at top right now, at some point they'll start to distance themselves. You just feel like they have to. I don't know how I think you can beat Man City, Ferris. I don't know that you can beat Haaland.
Right. True. That's true. Well, and FanDuel's odds would agree with that, as Man City minus 310 to Man United's plus 650. First goal scorer. Much different odds than what Gabriel Jesus was. That was like plus 440. Yeah. Erling Haaland plus 190. Yeah. So I would love to sit here and say that United are going to get a result from this. I just, the way that City are playing, the way that their front line is playing, Martinez and Varane have been great. Haaland's just a different beast. I don't think unless we get smoked like we did last year, right? Where it was 4-1 and 3-0, and it was over before the half even came, pretty much on each of those games. There's no at this point. It's like losing to United back in the early 2000s, right? There was no shame in necessarily losing 2-1 or getting a 1-1 draw out of that. The way that City's been on form this year and the way they have been in recent years and how they've kind of just retooled. If United lose, I could see that. It's going to suck. That blows. I never want to lose to the crosstown team, but you have to think realistically at this, right? And the way that they're playing, it's possible. It's more than, the odds are in that favor. What I just want to see is a united team that doesn't pull a Brentford, right? Doesn't just roll over after the first goal or two goes in. And there's a little bit more heart there, and that's what we've seen so far. And hopefully that continues. And if we can nick a draw out of this, I think that's a great result.
Oh, if I could bet on saying that you guys score first, that's what I would say happens. I think you'll score first, and then Man City just looks at Haaland and says, "Could you please help?"
Right. I mean, look at how many of Man City's matches they were down a goal or two,
very true,
and then came back to wipe the floor. And I really think too, Man City wins overall, and then if Manchester United starts Maguire, then it's going to be it's just going to be death.
Not going to happen.
Is there a Maguire conversation in the international convo coming up? Because
I'm sure we
have to.
We'll get there at some point. And here's the thing: I was going back and forth with Phil a bit, and is Maguire great? And no, that's all the answer. But he was left out to dry a lot last year. He didn't have a solid midfield, never had a consistent partner at that center back line. And how I can look and kind of compare that to, and I'm not by any stretch saying that they are the same center backs or anywhere in the same category. But look at how exposed Van Dijk has been this year, with not a consistent partner next to him in that center back spot and not a consistent midfield in front of him.
Yeah, but what about today?
Well, it's England, right? But there's no Calvin Phillips, and he certainly didn't help himself. But what I'm saying, for what his club...
He sucks.
For what his club record is...
You keep defending his shenanigan.
I sat here and said there's no way he starts, and no, he's not good. But you have to look and go, as a center back, being left out on an island for a lot of what he was last year, look at what's happening with Van Dijk.
But that doesn't stop him from having a good partner does not stop him from making really stupid decisions. Whether he's hung out to dry or not, he makes terrible decisions.
But it certainly helps. Look at the partnerships that a lot of the center backs have. Look at what just on the current United team. Unless Varane is hurt, unless Martinez is hurt, Maguire's not going to get in, nor should he get in over those two.
Harry Maguire and Cristiano Ronaldo are on the same team, and I don't even know how to equate that in my head.
You take Ronaldo on your team any day over Harry Maguire.
He's getting fined right now by the FA for smashing that kid's phone.
I'm sure he can afford that fine.
Yeah, he's actually mad about it. But
he also got his nose smashed in.
Yeah, I saw that in international duty. Quite the collision.
Speaking of, Ron just he said some dirty birdie words, and I think Ferris and I forgot to mention that we ended our pod last week, and I looked down at the bleep sheet, and I went, "Hey Ferris, I think it's all Ron. I didn't have to edit a single bleep into the last podcast."
Correct.
At all.
Because I'm a nerd for stats.
Correct.
I've been pooling and tallying who swears the most and who swears the least since I have taken over editing the pod.
100% me.
And it has nothing to do with me.
I am probably like 5-1 on swears.
You are well above both of us.
It could be true, but once you were removed from the equation for whatever,
that's true. That's true.
I drive you to swear. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I couldn't believe it. I looked and went, this is empty.
Yep.
I noticed that you guys didn't curse at all because tonight when we sat down to record, I was talking to Ferris and I was, yapping about the last pod. And I was like, by the way, you guys didn't curse at all. Yep. So, yeah, I had noticed.
Well, I tried. I mean, it wasn't like we were going for that. Of course, we weren't talking about Harry Maguire either.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, we're talking about Dalot, who is actually
great.
No.
He's not going to get there yet.
He's a complete 180 to what last season was as of this current time. Will that form last? Will he probably get torn apart in this match from the defensive side of the ball? More than likely, but just to kind of wrap up that particular match, we will see. Just I think what all United fans want at this point is to continue with the progress that has been made over the past 4 or 5 games and have that same level of fight, same level of heart towards playing for the badge. And results are going to happen. Results may not always go your way in the game, but as long as you're seeing that out there, which for large parts of last year and for the beginning of this year, that was not what was being shown out there. That's going to be enough for me in this match.
2-0 City at the half. I'm sorry, 2-0 United at the half, and then 4-2 finale for the City.
Dude, I'm right.
I could see it.
Haaland hat trick. I completely agree.
I could see it.
All right, now we move on to Graham Potter and the curse of the gnarly blue devil over the shining gull. How's that work for you?
That was pretty good.
I should have brought one of my wands into the pod.
On the gulls, we don't know for sure yet, but at least that was Ferris and I's take on the whole thing, was the sadness of that. Mm-hmm. Ron, we got a chance to talk about Mr. Graham Cracker Potter. What are you...
Man, it's interesting. I am still...
excited?
Yes.
Why the hesitation, though?
So... He has, other than his success at Brighton,
yep,
which honestly is kind of the crown jewel of his managing career at the moment.
Right, and last year for Brighton, he got them up to 9th.
Right,
is where they ended last year, which is pretty big for
without
Brighton.
question. He was pulled in by management at Brighton Hove, and he was kind of part of making that team better from the ground up in the past, I don't know, year and a half, maybe a little more. The management had a very specific thing that they were looking for and pulled him in. He fed into that and really helped Brighton move. He's having great success, or was having great success with Brighton, to then jump ship in the middle of that success to leap to a dumpster fire with new ownership who wants, an all-star game and doesn't really, the new management doesn't understand English football. And so far, doesn't seem that interested in the culture of it. So he's kind of moving from a place he's having success and a place he was building momentum, and went to kind of a dumpster fire, but with slightly better players. So I guess my question, I have 2 thoughts, but what my question is, what's his motivation to go to Chelsea? Right? Is it just to manage a big club? Is it to get more money?
Champions League. It's a proverbial top 4, top 6 club. I think there is a lot there. The new ownership could have brought him there too. He might believe in what the new ownership is doing. So
I mean, enough money just to be like, hey, if I last a year, my family's in a way better spot.
Right. So that's the other thing, right? The Chelsea manager curse continues, right? Yeah. And judging by how I look at it from a career standpoint, and granted, I am not in the football world, but if you can even parallel this to like significant others, right? If a significant other cheats on you and then bounces, are you gonna start a relationship with a person who just cheated on their ex? Like, it's the same kind of, you know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing. What makes you think that if you don't have success by this point next year, you'll be there? So the manager firing handbook is still it's like the Holy Grail passed from one owner of Chelsea to the other.
Yeah, but if you're, in the managerial role, right? We're not there. There are top jobs in the managerial world that you probably circle, right? And we'll keep this just for the context of this convo to club teams, right? You have probably, if you listed your list of 10 club teams in the world that are the most premier jobs for a manager, Chelsea would be in that top 10 or right thereabouts.
Okay,
right?
I could see that.
So in terms of that, now you add on to it that Potter's still staying in England. Of course, that's Potter. He stays in England. Still stays in England, gets to play Champions League, has a pretty good pocket of cash he can now spend.
No, he doesn't, because we spent it before he got there.
But there's the players, Koulibaly is different than Lewis Dunk.
Oh, sure.
In terms of those type players.
But I mean, I don't, at some point, maybe it's in Christian Pulisic's books about to come out. You bought players that Tuchel wanted. So I'm still so curious.
But Tuchel didn't want to keep Pulisic from all reports. That was ownership that wanting to keep him.
Right.
Right, because
there was American owners, they had this American player.
Right. So does Potter understand that, and now you might see more of him? Maybe.
But is that good?
I don't know. That's another part of it.
I'd love to see Christian, if he do well, but
does he deserve a spot in that starting lineup? I don't know.
I mean, because in his book, I know that it's out that he freaked out and was surprised that he didn't get the start in the Champions League final matches, but they also won the Champions League. So, I mean,
but they got there on Christian Pulisic, right?
Yeah, sure. So, they still made a change and won. If he didn't win, there'd be one thing to say. I don't know.
I think there's a lot. There was a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't yet know about, that they wanted Potter when that all kind of happened. Mm-hmm. And then, the real question is, did they just engineer Tuchel's departure, or was it really like the reports coming out saying that there was the difference in philosophy? Right. Because that makes total sense, considering we still don't have a director of football. We still don't have all these very key and very important positions filled in the front office, and everything is Bowley. Right. So that makes total sense if that's true. But I don't, the whole thing still is, it's all just unrest to me still. And I don't know that the club is going to get all that much better until our front office issues are solved.
Well, and I don't, that's what he's walking into. And I feel like he just took a job he's guaranteed to lose after the beginning of next year. I don't know. It's so weird to me.
But why do we think that's the case?
Because of the history of Chelsea. I mean,
history of Chelsea, but the history of Chelsea's been completely turned on its head with the new ownership.
Well, they haven't done anything to really give me faith that it's not a different band of crazy altogether.
True. I mean, Graham Potter could end up coaching the Harlem Oaks by the time, we're done with this. But
these guys are coming out and being I don't even say great, but normal. But they're not. They're being off the wall, comparatively speaking, the new ownership. So I don't know, man. It makes it a weird place that can't help recruiting. I don't know.
There's just a lot to unwrap here from all sides of things, and I think from a Potter perspective, why wouldn't you take this job? The way it happened so fast, I think, to your point, you said there was more happening behind the scenes there, that
there had to be.
This might have been
but I also think
it was talked about, and then as soon as there was an opportunity, boom, pulled trigger on it and move, and then bing, 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 and then 3 days after that loss or whatever, he's announced as Integer? That's quick.
The sacking of Tuchel actually had nothing to do with their loss in the first leg of the Champions League.
Right, but he came in shortly thereafter.
Right.
So it was more, that's where peeling back the layers of this story might be a more interesting table read for years down the line when you see kind of how all this played out for. I think the way that he plays, though, if we're talking what is actually going on the pitch, I think if he gets Chelsea to play anywhere near the level of organization and defensive structure that he did at Brighton, Chelsea will be a mainstay in the top 4 for the majority of the season, if not higher.
Yeah, but that's a lot of changing he's got to do in the middle of a weird year with the World Cup smack in the middle of it and everything else. He's got a lot of stuff stacked against him.
And so there's one thing that hurts him and one thing that helps him. One thing that hurts him is that, well, I guess
he doesn't have magical powers like actual Harry Potter.
I guess this could be a strength too, right? He has come in, and in his first match, which was against RB Salzburg, very little has changed in that match. Right. It was more a tweak to Tuchel's style of game, right? And so a lot of people seem to think it's going to be a more organized version of Tuchel's style of play.
Possible.
Well, in the short term, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, something that's really helping him came off of sad circumstances, but 2 matches have been postponed, which means he's had the opportunity
against big opponents too,
that a lot of managers don't get, especially when they're brought in kind of mid-season. It's normally, hey, you got a game on Saturday, good luck.
Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of the season. That's what's crazy about it. It's not mid-season. That's what's so nuts.
Right. But I guess the point I'm making is he's had a couple of extra weeks to really sit with the team in practice and kind of, try to get his style of play ingrained in them. Whereas a normal manager that was coming in has a game on Saturday against X.
Well, they would have been on the road that Saturday against
Fulham,
right, who've gotten off to a good start so far this year, and then at home the following week against Liverpool.
Yeah.
So they play Palace this week. So going away from home to a London foe where Palace haven't been quite as good as Fulham have, but he has had more time to kind of get his hands on the club, to kind of get the feel for the club and kind of understand a little bit more without being that 2 days game, 3 days game, 2 days game.
The Liverpool delay actually might not work in their favor because Liverpool needs
down the line. Yeah, but it's a little real early to still tell that.
I think overall, I'm willing to get behind Potter and see what he does for the club, and I'm not going to naysay the guy or anything like that. I'm just sad that Tuchel's gone. Right? Tuchel did so much for the club in such a hard time for the club. And I mean, look at all the trophies he won in such a short amount of time. We have kept other managers longer and have won less.
I mean, you could argue. Could you imagine the new ownership coming in and be like, hey, bud, we need you to get on the page? And Tuchel being like, would you get off my nuts?
Right.
Because
German nuts.
I've just had to manage through between Ukrainian invasions and a Russian oligarch owner and not like he dealt with a lot of crap that had nothing to do with him.
And he kept the players motivated. Maybe we didn't always get the result we wanted, but he kept the club relevant and he kept the players largely shielded from the god awful storm that befell that club. And it feels wrong to thank him by just booting him.
He's still going to get paid out of this.
Yeah, but still, like, again, has there been a more winning manager of Chelsea? No.
You know what?
Jose.
I don't think he won. He didn't win as many trophies in such a short amount of time.
Maybe not the time, but
so
Roberto Di Matteo.
You bring up a good point, Ron. If you have the next 4 years of Graham Potter and you don't get a trophy, but you're doing quote unquote better, is that better?
Are you pulling an Arsenal where every year you're in the top 4, but you have that Wenger effect with Potter?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. It's just weird. I feel bad that he's gone, and a lot of the fans on social media have been creating these, kind of clubs in support of Tuchel and copying him in their praise of him. And fans have been finding him on the street and thanking him, saying, "We think you were, you were sacked too early, but we really do appreciate it." And there's been this massive outpouring of, this sounds weird, but physical love for the guy. They find him in the street and they're like, "We're so thankful."
Did you find Tuchel in Munich when you were there?
No, that would have been so fun. But just to keep a perspective, he won the Champions League, the UEFA Super Cup, the Club World Cup. He was the coach of the year in 2021. They were an FA Cup finalist. They were a League Cup finalist, all in his short amount of time.
But he lost the Florida Cup.
Yeah,
that was the beginning of the end, man.
That was the beginning of the end.
He witnessed the falling of Tuchel in Orlando.
Yeah,
we did.
So I don't know. I still have this kind of sadness that he's gone.
Oh yeah,
because he was this steady presence in such a tumultuous time for the club, and you could tell that he really genuinely loved the club. The way he'd get fired up and get yellow cards for arguing with the refs, and I don't know.
Really upset we don't get another round of him and Conte.
Oh yeah,
we were robbed.
True. Very true.
Yeah, we needed round 2 for reals.
It's gonna be an interesting team to watch going forward. And
Ferris, can you put me down for Graham Potter, first coach canned in 23-24 season?
Sure.
You should put that down in my prediction.
Sure.
Well, we'll see how the first half of this season goes for him, and then I'll let you know how I feel.
Hey, man, the Chelsea, the winner of the Premier League All-Stars match. I don't know. Their owner, the new owner's got to shut up, I think, for a little bit. Just be like, I get it, bring new ideas, but be cool, get warm up to the situation there.
That's what I mean when I said earlier, he doesn't seem to have a desire to learn the footballing culture, right? He's just bringing in his American gunslinger tactics. Look how much money we make on an all-star team. Where the hell are you going to put it in this season?
Yeah.
This is, and I mean, every team has all-stars, and a lot of them. Yep. This is not the NFL.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. You know how you make a lot of money? Get in the Champions League.
Right.
If you Tuchel and you get Potter and you don't get a Champions League, you strike one on that dude.
Yeah. It's gonna be a tough time for our club coming forward, I think. But it is what it is.
If you get disgruntled, it's never too late to put on a red shirt, Ron.
Oh, it's always too late to put on a red shirt. Don't you worry.
Never too late. All right. Speaking of it's never too late. It's never too late for the Sultan of Sausage, Ron of the Rhineland, the Bavarian boy himself.
The lad of Lederhosen.
Oh my God.
Oktoberfestian that is Ron Keller. Give us your report from Oktoberfest 2022?
I have to say that we need to make a Brutiful game trip to Oktoberfest next year. And I talked to some of the organizers via email, and it is possible that we could do a pod legally permitted in Oktoberfest. So
Wouldn't that be something?
Like this really crappy tent that's got duct tape across the top of it out back.
Who cares?
We can tell you, we're next to the hill of shame or whatever it is everybody can take a piss at. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right next to the vomitorium.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to that in the background, but
We got high stools in here. Trust me. Put your feet up.
But gentlemen, I have to say that Oktoberfest is the happiest party of people that are just drinking beer and having a whip good time.
Was it everything that you had hoped and dreamt it to be?
It was more.
That's awesome.
It was way more.
Here, because I was afraid that it would be like Mardi Gras is a blast. Don't be wrong, but it's like I've officially crossed the age where I want to get in the middle of all that and enjoy it. I just thought like, it would be something like that where you're like, yeah, it was cool to do once, but I don't know. But like hearing you talk about it is awesome.
So it is. It's hard to describe. So we got in on Sunday night. Not this past Sunday, but one before it. And
that was how many days since Oktoberfest was open?
So Oktoberfest tapped their keg on Saturday morning. And it was Saturday as the first day, Sunday as the second day. I arrived 5 p.m. on the second day of the festival.
Gotcha.
And I had tickets for a table on the Monday, which would have been the third day of the festival. But we figured we're in town. Let's go check it out and kind of get an idea of where to go and how to get things and all that kind of stuff. So we show up on the Friday night and we have friends at one of the tents. And so we figure, we're going to go check it out and see if we can get in. When you first walk into the Oktoberfest festival, it kind of reminds you of like the state fair.
Like that kind of size and that kind of...
Yeah, so it's massive, right? And there's all these like food vendors in stalls. Some are in like tents, but others are in kind of permanent structures. There's these big buildings. There's rides like you'd find at a county fair, like, Tilt-A-Whirl and, that kind of stuff. Obviously all in
Kego coaster,
all in German. So you can't really, but you can look at it and go, hey, that's the zipper.
Yeah.
Right. And it has a very state or county fair feel to it until you get like really into it and you start talking to people and the food is a million times better. All of the rides are not Death Wish 3 style rides and
that are like held together by like zip ties and duct tape.
Yeah. Tires aren't on the motors to move the Ferris wheel.
That's
right?
true.
So we go in and we try and find our friends, and our friends are at the Hofbrauhaus. So let me just back up quickly. The whole history of Oktoberfest is that the Prince of Bavaria was getting married. So
That's all Prince of Bavaria now. That is absolutely one of Ron's nicknames.
Yep.
So he was getting married, and this festival basically became the celebration of his wedding became what is Oktoberfest now, right? So
how long ago was that? Like when did he get married?
October 12th, 1810. So it's been a little bit.
Couple 100 years, baby.
Just a bit.
So he invited the only Munich breweries, which there were 6 of them, and he invited them to provide all the food and the drink for his wedding. Right?
Smart man.
As you go through history, they essentially become the 6 tent posts of Oktoberfest. Right? And what they end up doing is they call them beer tents, but not one of them is actually a tent. They're all these big purpose-built structures, right? And there are more than this, but there are 6 main: Augustiner, Hackershore, Hofbrau, Lowenbrau, Paulaner, and Spaten. They have these massive, massive buildings. Everybody calls them tents.
Each of them.
Each one of them has their own.
Jeez.
And then there are collaboration ones between Hackershore and Spaten. So there's another big one.
A merger.
And they are scattered throughout the different areas of the grounds. So you get, good traffic to every.
So are these grounds like a ticketed to go into the grounds? Is it like like going into like a Woodstock or something where you got to come through a gate first, or like how you just get to these tents? You just walk in. Just walk in.
So to the main festival grounds, you just walk in. You go through security, and security's pretty light. They look at your bags, and for gentlemen, they'll do like pat downs, and then in you go. Right? No outside alcohol, no outside food.
Fair.
So you wander in. One thing we learned: if you are going to go, cash only on the inside.
Makes sense.
No cards.
Cash money.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare, I suppose.
It'd be.
Yeah. So.
Oh, Ron, you just gave me the best idea for our script movie we're going to sell to Netflix. The big heist of robbing all the cash at Oktoberfest.
I mean,
just saying, that is a Netflix.
Wouldn't be that difficult.
Everybody's drunk and stealing
to be made. Okay. Anyway, we'll make it big on that one. We'll work on that script.
If you say so.
So on the festival grounds, you have all these different tents for the beer halls. And then you have a separate gated area within the fenced in area within the festival grounds for the quote traditional section. And those are basically not the same style of party tents and party beer halls. Those you go to, and the food is served traditionally. It's not as raucous because it's really more about celebrating the history of the festival. So the musicians that come in are all like German Oompa bands and brass bands that are playing traditional music, doing traditional dances.
Did you see the guys slapping everything like the Ritzwalds?
Oh,
family?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Like clapping and then slapping their quads and then the back of their foot and the back of their calf and then high-fiving a partner and then high-fiving the last next to them and then do-si-do. Yeah, the whole thing.
That's awesome.
The traditional tent was actually a lot of fun because you got to learn a lot about the traditions that have kind of affected how we view Oktoberfest and, all that kind of stuff. They even had interesting performances where throughout the beer hall. So in a beer tent, right, you have these like terraces or decks, and they're like 10 tables by 10 tables, right? And they're, kind of squashed in. So if you think of one square, inside of the tent, and inside each of those is like another 10 squares, right? So it's 10 squares in one square that makes up a bigger square, and then there's a whole bunch of those squares inside the tent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you are not allowed to have a beer in the aisleways, only on those terraces or decks, because performances in the traditional tents are going to go through those aisles. So, for instance, at one point they had at every intersection, they had 4 people standing on these pillars with carriage whips. And a carriage whip is kind of a long wooden stick with a 3-foot whip at the end that you would use to crack the tail of your horse so it would move faster if you were driving a stagecoach, right? Or a carriage. And those people would be located all over the beer hall, and they would crack their whip in time with the music. And they would do these syncopated patterns that would rotate all around the beer hall. And it was incredible.
Ferris, this is not where I thought it was going.
No.
I thought he was going to say, were you with me? That the people with those carriage whips knocked the shit out of you if you were in the aisle with the beer weren't supposed to be. I thought that's where you were going with that.
Nice! And then just whack you.
That's exactly what I thought that was going.
But they did some incredible performances in there. So let me just go back slightly. So on the Sunday night, we just decided we're going to go and see if we can get in. So we go in. We have friends at the Hofbrauhaus. We get into the Hofbrauhaus, which is basically free to enter. The money that you pay for a table is what you're supposed to have a kind of a reservation for, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have one of those, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be able to sit at a table. And then they won't serve you beer if you're not seated at a table. So we get in and we're new. We're like, we don't have a clue what's happening. And this St. Pauli's girl, that's exactly what she looks like. You know, if you look at a label on a St. Pauli's beer, they look very similar. And she comes up and she says, "You want a beer?" And we're like, "Yes." And so she finds 2 empty seats and she points. And we're like, oh, we're not sitting there. And she goes, "Do you want a beer?" And we're like, "Yes." She goes, "You are sitting there."
And they whacked you with the saddle strap.
So we have a seat. And just as our rear ends basically hit the seat, this woman comes in and slings 2 1-liter steins of beer at us. And it is Hofbrau Fest beer. And it's incredible. So then we go.
I'm jealous.
Oh, much.
So then we go find our friends. And there's an open table. So we just sit. And now we own that table. And we order food, we order beer, we make about 40 new friends because everybody is so like just happy and lucky and life is good. We have some amazing currywurst. They have this currywurst with this onion brown kind of gravy mixed in with the curry. Oh, damn, that was good. And
the women's outfit, Darrendal. Remember we couldn't.
We looked at it.
We couldn't think of the name in the last episode.
Yeah. So we ended up closing Oktoberfest down that night.
What does close down mean? Midnight?
Basically, as they're kicking people out.
Which is like what time local Munich time?
So they start at about 11:30. Because it takes about 3 hours to get everybody out. Right. I mean, think about, we've all worked at a theme park. You close at this time, but it takes you another 2 hours to do an audience sweep.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So they start
German.
But do they like turn the lights on at all? Do they start, playing any?
No, the bands
just end
start
and then you
basically
know
saying
it's just
like,
kind of a hint. Yeah.
Do you think the lights go down and they start playing closing time?
So here's something really interesting. As we were walking in, it's about 5 o'clock. We go on about a 40-minute search for an ATM. We finally find one. We are passing the Polliner house, and we hear an entire house or beer hall of people singing Wonderwall. And I'm like, what is happening? All of these tents at night, or the beer halls, at night, they turn into party houses, right? And all they play is American pop music.
So you're talking like Bon Jovi and Guns
N' Roses. I don't know.
Pour some sugar. Oh,
I have no clue how many times I sang Sweet Caroline.
Oh, God.
That's phenomenal.
You went to Germany where you can hear that at City Walk, just walking across from Patos to...
Oh, my God. And I couldn't believe the music that was playing, right? But the interesting thing is, it's not like karaoke. Yeah. It is a 40-piece German band.
Playing that?
Playing it.
Playing the hits, baby.
And it was incredible. They would also have 2 bands on rotation.
Oh, that's
so
smart.
The music
just
never
back-to-back
stops.
Sets, yeah.
Right. And they just let the bands continue. And all you do is hear, what's the other one? The other one that I couldn't believe they were playing as much as they did. It was like every 4th song that night was Country Roads.
Really?
I was like,
hey, people, Germans love David Hasselhoff and John Denver.
That's a fair point.
Oh,
fair point.
Did you hear any David Hasselhoff stuff being done?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Because he did have a singing career, right? Or a musical career.
Huge in Germany, man.
Yeah.
That was like an ongoing Norm Macdonald bit. And don't forget, Germans love David Hasselhoff.
Yep. So we closed that down that night. The next morning, we have to be at one of the traditional tents at 11 a.m. because that's actually the tickets that we had purchased.
And if you don't show up to that, you have like a half an hour to get there, and then they just
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
You have 40 minutes. If you don't show up in that 40 minutes, they give away your table.
Gotcha.
But I was not going to miss that.
Yeah, no.
So don't you worry. So we go there the next morning, and it is much more subdued. It's more like the people who are there to... The only way I could kind of correlate it is it's like going to a Civil War reenactment about 4 hours before the battle. All the people that you...
That's a great analogy.
but that's what it is, right? Like all the people that really care about the storytelling and the history and the pageantry of it, they all go during the day. If you want to go get drunk with your friends and sing American pop tunes, you go at night.
Fair. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, never having been there, didn't know.
You're figuring all this out on the fly. Say what?
And you're like, I'll just do all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll come for the history and breakfast sausage and stay for the David Hasselhoff and
and Bon Jovi.
And Bon Jovi, baby.
So we end up there, and we are drinking by 11:02 a.m. Right? Steins of beer just show up.
Was it always a liter? Like the liter?
Full liter.
Always. They don't serve anything less than the liter, and they don't serve anything other than the fest beer, which is normally some sort of take on a Hell's Lager.
Right. So there's no like, hey, I'll have an IPA or I'll have this like double bock. It's just you're doing the fest beer.
So Ron, did you get to the, and maybe this is something Ferris I should have looked at for last episode, but so that's true. Like last episode I had the Westhofer. I always say it wrong. The old brewery in Germany, that oldest one.
Weinstefano.
There you go. I had their fest beer, which is a Pilsner lager. It is not an Oktoberfest Marzen.
Correct.
So what we associate in America with an Oktoberfest beer, typically being a Marzen, you're saying that's not typically what you're going to get served in those tents.
Correct. So in the tents, what you are served is the fest beer, which is a version of either
those 6 breweries beer.
It doesn't matter where you go. Right. If you go to the Augustiner or the Spaten or Lowenbrau or Paulaner, you're all going to get the same beer.
So you can, so if you're at the Spaten tent, you can get a Lowenbrau.
Oh, sorry.
Beer.
No.
Okay.
So if you go to the Spaten tent, you get the Spaten Fest beer.
Right. That's what I was asking.
Whether it's a take on a Hell's Lager or a more amber lager, whatever their Fest beer is, that's what you're getting.
Okay.
Not one of those tents served a Marzen.
Do they have the Das Boot?
No, I did not see a single boot. It was all leaders. And so here's why. Each of the tents holds around 3,000 people. Could you imagine if you had to, with the number of servers that you have, to remember the third guy on table 4 in deck C in this location wanted the boot, but the other people, and there's 20 people per table. There's no way that you're going to remember.
So he's having the IPA. There's 4 IPAs.
Everybody gets the same thing.
3 stouts.
Right.
That's fair. No, that's awesome, actually, to do it that way. I mean, they've had 200 years to think about how to do this.
Oh, wait. I found a little history, Ron.
Okay.
Do you have that?
I mean, I have a bunch of history, but
no, about the Fest beer. There's a switch that happens.
Yeah.
From to okay, I'll let you go. Okay, I was trying to find a little.
No, feel free. You got it. Go.
So it was the Bavarian amber lager known as modern Marzen, but in the 1970s, fairly late along, it was replaced by the lighter lager that Ron is talking about. Fest beer, just really
because they were watching their figures.
I think they were.
One of the main reasons for that is that the production is for the Fest beer, which are typically a version of a Hell's Lager, is easier than the Marzens are. Even though the Marzen is lager, but the Marzen is a darker color, so therefore it takes different ingredients. Oh man, I just forgot my train of thought. But the long story short is it's easier for them to just make one style of beer for the masses and send it. Right. The Marzen was part of it, but ends up tapering off because it's a little bit the grain bill and all that kind of stuff is a little more expensive to make. So they end up just going toward, essentially one beer for everybody.
It is wild that that shift is relatively modern. That it's not until the 1990s that the beer completely gets replaced with Fest beer, and the Marzen has been completely replaced with the Fest. That's wild. Kind of cool though. 200 years and still an evolution. That's awesome.
So the other interesting thing is that not one of those beers from Paulaner, Lowenbrau, Hofbrau, Hackerschor, Spaten, or Augustiner are lower than 5.8 on the old ABV.
Interesting. That's a light beer for the Germans.
That's a light beer for the Germans.
So you're drinking. We did the math sitting at the table. You are drinking in 1 liter of beer. You are drinking 3.4 Budweisers in 1 liter.
Bud Heavies or Bud Lights?
So if you are in the mindset that this is a sprint, you're going to go down pretty fast. And we had a few people that were ordering their second liter of beer at 11:15 in the morning.
Ooh.
And I was like, well, we're going to be cleaning up your puke.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we get there, we order food, we order beer. Our table appointment is for a 5-hour span.
Jeez.
So you basically eat and drink for 5 hours. At the end of that time, and during that time, you're making friends with your neighbors. You are watching the performances of the dance troops. You're listening to the music. Then you have pretzels coming and halves of chickens coming and schnitzel and wursts of all types, potato salad, radishes, pickles, all these things are just showing up that, otherwise you'd be wasted. So you get a ton of food. And by the end of 5 hours, you have eaten, like 4 days worth of food.
Jeez.
I just want my as beer now. I got to get my beer up in my office. Yes, because I would just be grabbing a fest beer right now. I just want German sausage, pickles, sauerkraut, and a schnitzel. So right.
It was so good. So at the end of the 5 hours, someone else, there's a 1 hour break in the table reservations, so they can turn it over and someone else gets your table for the next 5 hours.
Okay.
Right. Which they're kind of loose on the 5 hours. They're not standing there with a watch at the end of the 5 hours like, okay,
time's up. Yep.
So we leave and a whole bunch of our group is like, we're going back to the hotel to take a nap. It's like 3:00 in the afternoon or whatever it was. And I was like, because I had been mountain climbing the Matterhorn and all over Switzerland for, the previous 10 days, I was like, look, if I go back to the hotel, I'm done.
You're passed out for the night.
Yeah, I am not leaving. So myself, my wife.
Done in by the Matterhorn. I just couldn't. Oh, goodness. After visiting the Bond filming site.
So we end up just sticking it out. And so we go on some rides. We get some food. We go to the Polliner. We get a bunch of beer there. We go get more food. We go get more rides, et cetera, all day.
Just repeat.
Yeah. By far, my favorite food was the chicken schnitzel burger. And you can pretty much get it at any of the food vendors.
That sounds great.
Is it just like hanging off the side of the bun? Like, because the schnitzel?
I mean, more or less.
Yeah.
But they make basically like a medium dinner-sized plate worth of chicken schnitzel. And they put it on this tiny hamburger bun, right? With whatever toppings you want on it. I always did mustard. Just the bread, the mustard, and the schnitzel. Leave me alone. And I think I ate 8 or 9 of those.
Jeez.
Like over. Yeah. Just walk to the next one, order one. Walk to the next one, order it. They had crepes. They had chocolate covered everything. They had pretzels everywhere, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
They have the gingerbread hearts, right? That's another thing.
Yes.
Right?
And those are terrible.
Yeah, everybody says that. It's a tradition, but everybody's like, yeah, they're not good. They're not good.
They are
interesting.
They do such ornate artwork on them, and they make like necklaces so you can hang it around your neck.
It's an ornament. It's not to be eaten.
Oh, my God, that is true, because they are terrible.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
about around you did you, because I know like from the different, like, what you can get here from the import wise, I love Oktoberfest beers and fest beers and stuff. Was there one that stood out to you more, that you liked more when you were there? Could you tell stark differences, or does everybody really hone in on that style and it's very similar?
It's similar. However, if you're paying attention, there are differences in the tastes of the beers. If you're just running around grabbing beer, then, it really doesn't matter. But the one that maybe not that I liked the best, but the one that I was most surprised about was Lowenbrau. Because as I was growing up, Lowenbrau was a cheap, terrible beer. It wasn't, the kind of the beer of champions or anything, right? It was
being like a college cheap keg or something. Like,
my grandfather liked 2 beers his entire life. One was Schaefer, and the other one was Lowenbrau.
In that scenario, Lowenbrau is friggin' high class.
Yeah.
Way up there.
But when I was growing up, Lowenbrau was terrible. And I couldn't tell you the last time I had a Lowenbrau before Oktoberfest. But I was like, screw it, I'm here. I'm getting a beer from every 10.
Heck yeah.
So when I had it, I was like, oh my God, this is light years better than I can possibly remember. Now, granted, I must have had a Lowenbrau 35 years ago. I don't know, right? But man, it was delicious. It was a little more their version of the of that kind of Hell's lager was much more crisp and clean than the others. Paulaner was a little more Weissbier in theirs. Hofbrau and Hacker Shore are basically the same. Still delicious, but basically the same. Spaten was very, very carbonated and had kind of, I don't know, that carbonated, bittery taste. But it was still phenomenal. And Augustine, the Augustiner, that one was very malty, but still incredible. So I can't say that there was a bad one. I would say Hofbrau was probably if I was rating them, it would go Hofbrau, Hackershore, Lowenbrau, Paulaner, Augustiner, Spaten. Not that I gave it that much thought.
Fair enough.
Given.
But absolutely incredible the entire time. Was sad to leave. I'll put we all the people that went, we all dressed up. My friends and I that had all gone. And when we post this on the blog, I'll put pictures up.
That's
Dude
awesome.
sends us pictures of himself and later Oktoberfest's like, why'd you guys give me the nicknames?
Exactly.
Whatever, dude. When we go and do our pod, you guys are dressing
absolutely,
up.
I will.
Don't you worry.
I mean, I need
fun.
lederhosen that's like from our logo, that color, yellow and green. Like that's
I mean, that's not difficult.
yeah.
So
about
the festival is absolutely incredible. I encourage everyone to go. Remember, it's only like 2.5 weeks.
I got Saturday, September 17th this year through Monday, October 3rd.
Yeah, it usually ends on the first Sunday of October.
It's mostly in September. I'll have to look up to why it was Oktoberfest, but as a name, but
it's incredible. The entire town is celebrating it. As you walk around the streets around, there are big inflatable pretzels that are hung from people's like balconies on tall apartment buildings. There's the Munich flag, that like blue and white checkered flag is flying literally everywhere.
That's awesome.
And every place has outdoor seating, outside the festival grounds. Every place has outdoor seating, and it's the beer is just flowing. So it's absolutely incredible, and it is a must-do if you are a beer fan.
That's awesome. I'm jealous.
Absolutely incredible.
Man, Bond, Villain Layers, and Oktoberfest.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
man.
I also was able to have, while I was in Switzerland, I had a boatload of beer in the mountains.
Yeah,
and
those pictures look great.
If you followed our social media,
those pictures looked awesome.
Man,
Something on National Geographic.
Rod's wife was like, could you drink the beer instead of taking all the pictures, what she was telling us when we were hanging out there Saturday. But every picture with those mountains and everything in the background, they were so good looking.
Yeah. And some of them I worked, a little harder than I should have to get the right shot. But I was like,
how often exactly.
Yeah, it has to happen. So, gentlemen, the only other cool thing that I did on that trip, the day after Oktoberfest, I took a train to a bus, to a different bus, to a walk for the Andleck Monastery.
That's awesome.
Outside of Munich, Germany. And they're not a Trappist monastery, but they are a beer-producing monastery. And that place was super cool.
That's awesome.
And on our next pod, I have beers that I brought back from that monastery.
Love it.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that on a future pod. And
Heck yeah.
From international conversations of beer, should we just look real quick at the international footy going on for the U.S.? Sorry. I'll throw this over to you, Ferris. Take her away.
Well, the U.S. men actually were playing in Germany, but they were playing Japan. Yeah. They properly lost to Japan 2-0 as goals in the 24th and 88th minute of play were more than enough for Japan to hand. The U.S. men their third loss in the past 10 matches. Not a good showing from the U.S. men. Pretty
dismal
performance, but a pretty strong side. All things considered. You still had a lot of that talent that we want to see playing. A lot of it went down on was the back line something that we're going to start in the World Cup? Probably not. When you have like an Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, Sam Vines, and Serginho Dest, maybe 1-2 of those get into the World Cup side and start in that first game against Wales. But everybody else, Adams, McKennie, Luca Del Torre, Ferreira, Gio Reyna was back in the starting lineup, and Brendan Harrison are all going to be starters or thereabouts that you think are going to be on the plane going over there.
We didn't have a single shot.
No.
In the entire first half.
No, it was all Japan.
Man, it also really deflated things, I feel like, for the conversation before going to the World Cup of we might not do very well.
Or we might not be a good. Now, we were also wearing the new kit for the first time.
Ugh. That could be half the problem. England's new kit.
That's their away kit, at least. But our home kit is,
it's terrible.
I don't know how somebody at a company like. Anyways,
I sent you guys that article about why Nike doesn't care that the public doesn't like their kit.
Yeah, they said no one liked the jeans kit or whatever, but that became popular later. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think that's going to happen either. Now, tomorrow, as we're recording this on Monday the 26th, on Tuesday the 27th, they play in Spain against Saudi Arabia, which is going to be their final international friendly before the World Cup. Final match before that November 21st date that we talked about a little bit earlier, where the men will play Wales in their first game of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. So overall, gents, how are you feeling at this moment for the men's chances of advancing just out of the group in general?
Not confident.
I'm not very good. I think a lot has to go our way as opposed to controlling the narrative.
Agreed.
Ourselves.
And mind you, we have Wales, England, and Iran in our group.
I think
it's not good.
Sorry, go ahead, Blake.
It's not good. That's just not good for us.
I think I at this moment in time, seeing what we saw, maybe I'll change my mind after Saudi Arabia, depending on what changes Berhalter makes.
Saudi Arabia, like Japan, also in the World Cup. Both are.
Yeah. Right. I'm just worried because
look, for the home team, wrong, but
we seem to be hammering out this plan A style ball, and it doesn't seem like we have a plan B.
That's fair. A lot of criticism was the Japan press, that high line up against our defenders is what kind of did us in, and we never adapted to that. So to your point, not adapting at half or mid game to that plan B and switch formation style, that sort of thing. I think a level of concern has to be there, regardless of whether it's a 0 to 5 scale. A concern has to be there. For me, it's probably more like a 3. I'm not quite at that 5 level yet, but I think, unlike what a lot of people probably want to circle in that England game as a big game, and they're going to be kind of our biggest, we've played them before in the World Cup. They're kind of a lot of players that a lot of people know over here, and that's going to be the big one that we all want to see against the day after Thanksgiving and so on and so forth. I think that Wales game is crucial. You start off with a good result in that first game. That's going to lead the group and kind of how we then see that group out. You say, for instance, a number of scenarios can play out. Say, for instance, you get a result from that and you get a 2-1 win against Wales. You can kind of afford to maybe drop points against England if we're in that spot, right? We obviously want Harry Maguire starting at the back for England when we come across them. But then we go to, I ran, and we might have a Algeria thing there where we get a win out of that game and then we advance on to the next round. So I think that Wales game is absolutely huge. I'd like to see, more importantly, tomorrow's match, how, by the time you're listening to this, we'll know the result, but how that group bounces back from a dismal performance against Japan. I think that's going to be key, because you're going to have to do that in the World Cup in a few months' time.
Yeah.
Do we want to call it our one good victory is we actually beat England 0-2?
I don't know. I'm having trouble with the team. I don't feel like we are tough enough. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like we get pushed around a lot, and we don't have that kind of organized fight. I feel like we have that kind of hothead reaction, knee-jerk reaction to things, as opposed to getting tougher as a team and playing a little more physically, but playing physically in a smart way rather than a reckless way.
Well, right, but that's going to go into, we could be the youngest team at the World Cup this year.
I know, but I'm still concerned. It doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that could play into it. We never had a team this talented in terms of, you look at the starting lineup against Japan, you have Premier League players, you have Serie A players, you have Bundesliga players, you have Liga, you have a host of top 5 European clubs, where is predominantly the biggest soccer to be played, and we haven't necessarily had that. We've had your Dempsey, who may have had a stint over there occasionally, Landon Donovan, who was more on the Galaxy side of things, and a lot of the players that came from there. So we have an immense amount of talent. But in terms of that cohesion and that toughness, that together that you're talking about, hopefully that will build and sink more into those that are on that plane going over there, that will kind of hit them and realize they have to do that, because now this is the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us are sitting here with grander ideas that we're going to win the World Cup, but to get out of the group, I think, is a very realistic goal that the U.S. men's national team, Berhalter and those boys that go over there, need to have in their mind.
I think it's really going to depend on how we do against Saudi Arabia. That will kind of give us, like you said, are they going to bounce back and have the mental fortitude and the mental toughness to be a fish, a goldfish, forget that part and move on.
And tomorrow, Ricardo Pepi and Christian Pulisic will both start, which will be interesting.
As long as we can keep Pepe healthy throughout the World Cup, I think he'll be
maybe.
He'll be good.
I'd like to see PFOC come in. We'll see how he did. Pepe certainly helped to get us to where we're at. Did a lot in the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. But you also have a lot of those players that played against Japan that are going to be on the fence, right? Your Mark McKenzie's, your Eric Palmer Brown, your Joe Scally's, who may not be in that final team going over. But yeah, tomorrow, by the time you listen to this, we'll know other result more. But definitely interesting for the U.S. men who will be back to the World Cup for the first time in 8 years. Now, have you guys been following any of this UEFA Nations League?
I have, actually.
It's been quite interesting. They did the draw for the groups last December, so December of 2021. And what we're currently going through is phase 6 of group play. So between the 14 groups, this is the last phase, that then the next round, semifinals, third place, playoff, and finals will take place following the World Cup in 2023. So throughout those latter, Mays and Junes is when those games will be played. But so far, the following teams have advanced: Croatia, Italy, the Netherlands, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Turkey, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Latvia, and Estonia have all qualified for the next phase of play. With a whole host of matches tomorrow, and some quite interesting ones, actually, between Portugal and Spain, Norway and Serbia, and Scotland and Ukraine. Those matches will all decide who is going to win those groups that they're in. So, again, by the time you listen to this, you would have already seen that. But, how are you guys so far liking what UEFA has essentially turned a host of friendly matches into this kind of 2-year tournament that they're doing?
Is this the one England just got relegated out of?
Yeah. Level. And they just played a 3-3 game today to Germany.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I've fallen off of this a little bit, to be honest, and I haven't followed this very much. Another way for UEFA to make money until they make their own Super League, I guess.
I've enjoyed it because it's another set of international football. There's both pros and cons to it taking 2 years to finish. But overall, I've been enjoying it, but I really enjoy most international football. It is weird that there are so many. There's the Euros and Club World Cup and the World Cup, but overall, I think it's a fun tournament.
Right. This isn't so much a tournament as it is like a league. It's called UEFA League because it's played over the course of 2 years based on all the international breaks, essentially turning it into a game or two as played with this. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's kind of a pros and cons. I don't mind it as much because you have all of your UEFA, all of your European clubs pretty much in these groups that are playing each other and are put into pots and whatnot. You get some interesting things here. Like we have Spain and, Portugal tomorrow to see who qualifies for the next round. Like that's a good match to watch.
Yeah.
So I think it has certain storylines and that have certainly helped here. Doesn't help teams like England who don't do well in it prior to a World Cup with the England media there that's going to just bash Maguire, bash everything,
Well, Maguire sucks.
That's true.
The other thing that's interesting is because the tournament takes 2 years to
essentially
come to a completion, players change, coaches change.
Interesting.
So just because you're in the middle of that season doesn't necessarily mean the squad you started with is the squad you end with.
That's an interesting point.
I think that'll be the telling point once you get to the end of the second year and people are like, hey, it's the final for that tournament. And people go, oh, right. Wait, how did that go again? I have to go back online and look like, oh, yeah, right. That's how this. I don't know. That's is it putting a hat on a hat? I don't know. It's a little.
I mean, you're not wrong.
The one that scores the most points wins the games. Thank you, Blake.
No, I'm saying it's just like, hey, we have these friendlies. Cool. And we're going to add a tournament. Oh, cool. How does that work? Well, it ends in 2 years. Oh, okay. Okay, that's swell.
Well, and I think again the big thing is it's not a tournament, right? It's set up in a tournament style, but it's a nations league, right? It's like league play.
They're all tournaments,
but call it whatever you want. If you have a final in group play, it's essentially a tournament.
Call it whatever you want.
That's true.
Call it fake.
Call it a hat, right?
And that's Europe for you. Does that wrap us up, gents?
It does.
Man, it's a good time hanging out with the Sultan of Sausage and the
lad of Lederhosen.
There is
when we
the Prince of Pickles.
Oh,
I like that one.
Yeah, I'd rather be the Prince of Potato Salad.
The Prince of Pickles. The Sergeant of Spätzle.
A Spatzel.
A Spatzel. I thought Spätzle. Isn't it Spätzle? The noodle?
No, Spätzle.
Spätzle. That's the noodles. It also means slang for noodle dick, just in case you were wondering.
Okay, moving on.
Hey, I learned my friend had a dog named Spätzle when they lived in Germany, and they didn't know why all the neighbors thought it was funny when their dog get loose, and their mom, this American mom's in the corner going, Spätzle, Spätzle, basically yelling noodle dick over and over. So that's why every time I get Spätzle, that's what I think of. So there you go.
That's brilliant.
Now you will too. And anyone that listens, you're welcome.
I'll put up a whole bunch of pictures from the festival on our blog when we post this, and then share them to social media so that everybody can check them out.
Yeah, make sure you get those pictures of the Matterhorn so you'll know how hard it was, how worn out you were from drinking by the Matterhorn before you went to Oktoberfest.
Hey, it's a tough life, man. Somebody's got to live it.
Love it. It's never too hard for the Sultan of Sausage. Ooh, is that the name of your sex tape?
Yes, it is.
You beat me to it.
On location.
That's the name of your sex tape.
As soon as it came out of my mouth.
Name of your sex tape. Which, by the way, the final episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine was both hysterical and made you want to cry at the same time.
Oh, I got to catch up on that. I got to do a little catching up on and binge through that. Right now, we're nerding it up with the new Lord of the Rings TV show. Of course we are.
Yeah. Nerd alert.
Hey,
Nerd alert.
I thought about dropping some weird, obscure elf jokes, and I didn't. I was proud of myself for this one.
Yet. The pod's not over quite yet.
But we did get some Harry Potter ones in there. So
we did.
We did. So as always, give us a follow on the socials, the Twitters, this Facebook, especially the Untapped, as we are about to be the 13th person to review this, our beer of the pod, which was the Shaken Not Stirred.
Not Stirred New England IPA.
There we go.
With a handsome devil of a Bond on the front.
George Lazenby.
Bond girls on this flanking him on the sides of the can.
Good old flanks.
But it's the silhouettes, just like it is in all the openings.
Yep.
Straight from a Bond layer. So freaking cool. Thanks, Ron. That was
thank you, sir.
Good, delicious
Awesome
beer. So make sure, you follow us on Tap for all that. If you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or however you listen to the show, give us a screen grab, zap it to us on a DM, and we'll make sure we get a koozie sticker or something out to you and say thank you. Ferris?
Yep.
Does that carry you over to the Mr. Ibrahimovic quote?
We're going to give Zlatan a little bit of a break today. Instead, I have a pack for Ron and I of the Panini FIFA World Cup stickers.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to each open a pack, tell the players that you have, and that'll take place. And we'll just give Zlatan a little bit of a rest. Even the god himself needs a little bit of a rest from time to time.
Where are you guys getting those at? Is that CVS?
Walgreens is where I got these at. Yeah.
I may have ordered 2 cases of them.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to do that. That's true. That way I can open some on the pod with you guys. I feel so left out right now.
All right. Ron, who'd you get?
I got
Harry Maguire. Come on,
my God, please, yes, please.
the Ecuadorian international Carlos Groza.
Okay.
I got the Mexican national team hologram sticker. I got
I like it.
Gerson Torres from Croatia.
Sure.
I got Elias Chair from, where's that guy from? Morocco. And then I got Oscar Duarte from Croatia.
Okay. I actually got some names here. I got Brielle Mbolo from Switzerland. I believe he still plays in Germany. I could be wrong. Daniel Amarte for Ghana, plays for Leicester City. For Qatar, Abdulzai Hatim. I'm so sorry, but that's probably the closest I'm gonna get. Then I have Pepe, all 97 years of him for Portugal, and then not a Harry Maguire, but he did score today, and a Manchester United back, Luke Shaw.
Oh wow, nice.
I'll take a Shaw for sure, and in the nice blue card, he's the only one that's. It's like a special card or something.
Oh yeah, the border card.
Yeah, the border card.
So one other real quick thing. If you are doing this at home, the Panini books, go look up an app called Figuritas. It's a Spanish app, and it is essentially a digital inventory of your Panini book. So as you are dropping stickers in the book, just tag them in your app, and also do, even if you have an extra, right, like a duplicate, because you can share it with your friends and find out what duplicates they have and what duplicates you have, and then it'll create trades for you. So it's basically a digital inventory of all your cards.
That's cool.
And then you can trade with your friends to complete your albums.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to have to go ahead and order some so we can do this. I can do this, join you guys on the next pod. You're like working on the pronunciation for the names, Ferris. I'm hoping I can get better at the Spanish pronunciations. As my 4-year-old daughter, she is she's been working on Spanish for basically the whole year. Except she still cannot say the word please, which I think is poor for 4.
That's pretty good. I mean, I smelled it coming, and I was like, where's he going with this?
I knew exactly where he was going with it. I knew exactly.
That was pretty good.
That's
good for you.
Good night, everybody.
Shaken, not stirred.
Aim like James.
Aim like James. Love the beer. Cherish the game. The beautiful game. Cheers.
Cheers. Harry Maguire sucks.